violent crime increasing in Germany. Welcome to Riks Europe, Andrew Hammel, lawyer, journalist and writer.
Thank you.
So the German Federal Police released their annual report for 2023, and you wrote about this on X, formerly Twitter. Could you tell us about the results that you found?
Sure. And I'm also going to shortly be writing a piece for the website Quillette about this. There have been two major crime statistics releases this year. The first was the Bundeskriminalamt, basically the FBI of Germany, which showed double-digit increases in crime. And the role of foreigners was highly disproportionate in those crime increases. And just recently, last week, the Bundespolizei, the federal police, these are the police organization that controls the rail network and border security operations and border checks, etc. They released their report, and once again, it showed double-digit increases in crime, including violent crime and sexual assaults, and also the highest ever number of assaults on federal police officials in the course of their duties, with, I think, about 800 injuries and almost 80 people injured so severely that they had to go on disability. So this is yet another in a string of very sort of devastating and frightening crime reports about events in Germany.
And of course, just very recently, on Friday, in fact, before the weekend, Germany saw another knife attack. This was claimed by an Islamic State. It's to my understanding. Could you tell us more about this tragic event?
Yes, this was, ironically, it was called a Festival of Diversity. So it was the 650th anniversary of the German city of Solingen, and they called their festival a Festival of Diversity. And on actually the very first night of the festival, during a concert, a man took a very large knife and began directly stabbing the throats of everybody close to him randomly. His name turned out to be Allah. Not as in God, but another version of that name. He's a Syrian national who arrived in Germany in December of 2022. His asylum claim was denied, and he was even scheduled to be deported from Germany because he had no legal right to be in the country. And then the Bundespolizei, which handles deportations, at some part of actually this was the state police, they arrived at his shelter one evening just expecting him to be there. He wasn't there. He went underground. At some point he got radicalized by Islamic State, perhaps even before he came to Europe, but now he certainly is an Islamic State terrorist, and his goal was, in the words of the Islamic State statement, just to simply murder as many Christians as possible. So the fact that, I mean, it's a horrible crime on its own, many lives changed forever, but the fact that this man was actually scheduled for deportation, but the authorities simply couldn't get their act together and make it happen, is causing yet another round of finger pointing and accusations in Germany.
And this would, of course, add more pressure to the government to act. What have been the reactions and the statements made by the government after this?
Yeah, this is this most recent crime. It's the latest in a long string of fairly similar crimes by asylum seekers or denied asylum seekers, has caused a huge political division. So the members of the current red, green, yellow traffic light coalition, which is hugely unpopular in the country, it only gets about 30% support right now. The Chancellor Olaf Scholz has said, well, we must pass new laws that say you cannot carry long knives in public. So we're going to reduce the length of a knife you can carry in public from 12 centimeters to 6 centimeters. And the head of the Social Democratic Party, Saskia Esken, said we can learn, quote unquote, nothing from this Solingen case because we can't change the laws about asylum and deportations in Germany because of the Constitution and because of EU law. And so these statements are being widely ridiculed as totally inappropriate and trying to downplay the situation and distract attention, while the mainstream Conservative Party, the CDU, has really ramped up its rhetoric. So the chairman of the CDU said, we must right now stop anybody coming into Germany from Afghanistan and Syria because the system is out of control. About 700 people enter Germany every single day, mainly mainly from those countries and Turkey, and there's no security checks, no background checks. We don't know who's coming in. And so the CDU has taken a much bolder stand to try to make capital from this issue. And of course, the Alternative for Germany party on the far right of the spectrum has obviously said this is what we have been warning about for every day since 2015. But they generally are boycotted on German talk shows. So you will almost, it's very rare to see a member of the AfD party on a large mainstream TV platform, although it does sometimes happen. So the AfD will probably see an increase in support from, they're right now about 19 to 20%, and I could easily imagine them going up to 21, 22%. And they are the leading candidate in two upcoming elections in important East German states.
And that brings me to my next question, because you mentioned that the media has a sort of a bias in the way they report. Has it been so with a lot of these cases, including this recent one, or is all the information brought forward?
That is actually, it's interesting. That's beginning to change. It was for a long time, the main reaction to a case like this, even in the case of someone who should have been deported, was you would get a couple of interviews with politicians expressing their sympathy, etc., and then maybe an interview with a criminologist or a sociologist who would say we must not overreact and we must not blame all foreigners, etc. The kind of typical reaction that you get that you used to get was the only reaction. But now, the Spiegel newspaper said we used to have a policy of not naming the ethnicity, the background of criminal suspects, but that makes no sense anymore. So a writer for the Spiegel, Nicholas Blome, said we have to face this issue and name names. And there's also, the AfD does get invited sometimes to major forums, and they say this, crime by foreigners is a serious problem. And now mainstream figures from the CDU and SPD parties have also come out and openly admitted foreigners are committing a disproportionate amount of crime, and something is wrong here. We have to integrate them better, or we have to kick them out of the country and send them back home. And these statements, they seem just common sense to many people outside of Germany, but they do represent a major taboo break with what you were allowed to say about crime and foreigners before, and is happening mainly because the numbers are simply indisputable.
And you mentioned before a large divide. How is the tension in the country between people? Is there a big divide, and are people very angry at the moment with the government?
Yes, there's a huge amount of dissatisfaction with the current government on a variety of grounds, from like inflation to energy prices, but also immigration. They are the coalition is a very unwieldy coalition with different ideologies, and they're constantly fighting. And they haven't been able to get very much of any kind of legislation passed. And so people are saying Germany is in a state of paralysis right now. We've got serious problems with immigration and the economy. Nobody can do anything about them. And because you cannot have a change of government in Germany, you can't dissolve parliament. That is not permitted. They're stuck with this government for another entire year while the problems only get worse. So I'd say there's a significant amount of tension. It's not overspilling into violence on the streets, but we could be seeing that in limited areas and for limited times later, because there's just this incredible amount of pent-up frustration with Germany's lack of ability to handle its problems.
Thank you, Andrew Hammel, lawyer, journalist, and writer, for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you for watching Riks Europe.